I'll say this, I was kind of unique. When I was in junior high, a bunch of guys wanted to play in the NFL or NBA or do all these different things. I always knew I wanted to be an attorney. And that's because I grew up around my father and my uncle practicing law around Northeast Texas and watching them try cases to verdict. So I just grew up watching it, I grew up loving it. It feels good, and it's always what I wanted to do. From the time I was young, because I watched them try so many cases in East Texas, I always knew I wanted to come back to East Texas and advocate for people who need a voice. The case I just tried, for example, it was my client against a big insurance company. My client was hurt, and the insurance company, despite whatever the facts and whatever the evidence was, did not want to pay him, regardless of how injured he was, regardless of how clear liability was in that case. We had the accident happened in 2020, and they did not accept or admit any type of fault for the accident until we showed up to the courthouse in Gregg County. So 4 years after the accident, the first time they accepted liability for it was when they actually got to see the whites of those jurors' eyes in the Gregg County courtroom. The case went to verdict on March 18th, but my client was driving down Judson Road in Longview. He was at a complete stop with his left blinker on, waiting to turn into a bank. A man was driving down the road and hit him head on. The police officers from the Longview Police Department responded to the scene and wrote an accident report. The accident report was very clear that my client did nothing to cause or contribute to this accident happening. And despite what the police officers who actually came and responded to the scene and did an investigation, they accepted no liability and no fault for causing the accident. And again, it wasn't until they showed up to the courthouse and saw the jury that they actually told the truth and admitted fault in this accident. So what happens in every case that's tried, whether it's civil or criminal, at the end of the case, the judge who's presiding creates what's called the charge of the court. And the thing about that is it's not ever going to be the charge of Dain Goudarzi. It's never going to be the charge of Goudarzi and Young. It's never going to be the charge of the insurance company. It's going to be the charge of the court. And that jury, after they've listened to all the facts and evidence in the case, will go back and deliberate and render a verdict in accordance with the law. So the 12 men and women who presided over this case and the 11 that signed the verdict listened to all the facts and evidence and the judge's instruction, and then decided to award my client that verdict. And I can't tell you how thankful I am for those 12 men and women who came to the courthouse and performed their civic duty by listening to all the evidence and rendering that verdict. Well, it was an honor to represent my client. It's a responsibility we take very seriously to our firm, because what you have to realize, when someone gets in an accident and they're hurt, this oftentimes is the biggest thing going on in their life, and we're the only people that can provide them that voice. So it's an obligation we take very seriously, and of course I took very seriously throughout the duration of the litigation, the ultimate trial of this case. So I'm honored to have represented my client, and I look forward to representing those in the future who I'm called upon to represent.
Yeah, and that was kind of my next question. Looking forward. So are you scheduled to take the bar anytime?
So my entire class of law students, whether it be in my law school or everywhere else, takes the bar in late July. So I'll take the bar in late July, and then I'll be back here working that next Monday. So I look forward to taking it, and I look even more forward to coming back here and actually practicing law.
Mm-hmm.
So
you being a law student at SMU right now, currently, are you back and forth between Dallas and here?
I'm back and forth all the time, yes.
Okay, all the time, yeah.
Yes.
So working, going to school and everything, and so at least when you're completely done with your schooling, are you completely settled down back here?
Yeah, yes, I'll be settled back here. I'm tired of running the roads as much as I have, but I'm looking forward to coming back here and working. It's interesting. Where I go to law school, it's of course in Dallas. So all of the people I go to school with, their biggest dream is to work on the 50th story of some building for some company. They want to work for Apple, they want to work for Exxon, they want to work for the insurance companies, and they want to bill out by the hour. I want to come back here, I want to work for the people who've called upon us to represent them. So that's important to me, and I look forward to being able to do it.
As far as not having the complete bar on your belt, are you allowed to do everything that an actual attorney is allowed to do?
So the short answer is yes. but you have to have supervision from a licensed attorney from the state bar. So you have to be qualified. You have to finish, I believe it's 2/3 of your schooling, of your law school, and then you have to meet a grade threshold requirement, which I met. And then you can try cases, take depositions, do whatever you need to do as long as you're under the supervision of a licensed lawyer in the state of Texas.
Okay. Which would be your father, right?
It'd be my father and every other attorney at this office. When I tried that case 2 weeks ago, I was under the supervision of my uncle Marty Young and Miss Christina Joseph, who is a lawyer at our office. So, you know, it was a team effort. I can't tell you how thankful I am for everybody at Goudarzi and Young who's invested in me so much throughout, you know, my lifetime. I've been blessed. They've really taken the time to teach me and explain to me the law and what it means to be a lawyer and a good advocate. So,
What was that to you to be a good advocate?
To do the right thing. You know, there's a kind of a simple principle. It doesn't matter what kind of case it is, whether it's civil, whether it's criminal, whatever it is, there's always a just answer. And I think it's important that when you're representing people in the courtroom, no matter what type of case it is, that you advocate for what is right and for what people deserve. And what makes this country unique compared to Russia, compared to North Korea, compared to all those countries in Europe, Asia, wherever it is we have a justice system where jurors come to the courthouse and render a verdict. It's not some tribunal, it's not some appointed politician. It is whoever shows up to the courthouse that day. They listen to the facts and evidence in the case, and they render a verdict in accordance with the law. So,
absolutely. Well, are there any last comments you'd like to say? Anything you think I missed that you'd like to touch on?
No, sir. I think we covered most of it, and I'm honored to have represented my client.